Hi everybody, Paula here. I wanted to hop on really quickly and share with you 3 tips to help you delegate well to a virtual assistant. So I've been working with virtual assistants for 5 or 6 years, and I've had a virtual assistant in some capacity for that long. Most recently, in the last couple of years, I've had 2 virtual assistants working for me. At some period of time, or sort of over the last 5 to 6 years, I've always had at least one virtual assistant based out of the Philippines working for me. And I suppose I've picked up a few tips along the way that I wanted to share with you. This whole conversation or this thought process came about for me because I was in a coffee shop the other day talking to a business colleague about virtual assistants, and he was talking about how he finds it really hard to delegate to virtual assistants who work or assistants who work remotely or work away from him, so not sort of sitting in the same office as him. And the example that he was using is, for example, if he has customers or clients who have appointments in his diaries and they want to reschedule, he finds it difficult or challenging to explain to somebody all the little idiosyncrasies that go with changing the schedule. So his location, if they want to move the location, how long it's going to take him to drive there, how much buffer room he needs, etc. He finds it much easier to be able to just explain it to somebody if they're sitting next to you. And he's right, it is much easier. But it can be really efficient to have a virtual assistant. And I suppose it made me think about that there are some key things that you need to know and you need to think about when handing over and delegating work to a virtual assistant or somebody who's offshore. And the first one is that you need to start thinking in a rule-based way. So you need to think of, as I'm handing this task over, what are the rules that come with this task and the various decisions that you might have to make along the way. So in his case, he would have to set rules around if somebody has an appointment at X o'clock and they want to push it back 1 hour, you need to check the location of that appointment and the next appointment and make sure I've got enough travel time, and you would do that by looking at Google Maps. The other sort of rules that he might pop around it is, before rescheduling somebody's appointment, I want you to check and see if they're a serial rescheduler. In other words, look at their history and see if they've never rescheduled before, let them. And if it works for my diary, giving me a half an hour buffer before the next meeting and taking into account travel time based on Google Maps and a half an hour buffer on each side, you can let them reschedule their appointment. But if they've rescheduled appointments twice before, then we've got this policy, which is you can only reschedule twice, and if it's the third time, you say no. You're unable to reschedule, you forfeit the meeting, or whatever your rule might be. So you need to start thinking in rules. And I'd also sort of challenge or question that if you can't think of those sorts of rules to put around a task, then potentially the task may not be delegatable to somebody yet. So until you're able to put rules or a structure around it, it may be something you need to continue doing, noting down the rules that you're applying through your decision making. So first thing, start thinking in rules. Second thing is to think about what success looks like for you. So let's pretend you've handed over all your tasks, or you've handed over that task in particular, rescheduling and scheduling appointments. At the end of a week or a month, how are you going to know if you're happy, or what will have been happening for you to feel happy, and what might happen that would trigger you to feel annoyed? So what does success look like? And this takes a little bit of digging into your belly to be like, what will annoy me and when will I be happy? So in the case of the scheduling, let's keep running with that example, you might think to yourself, well, if at the end of the week there have been a few appointments rescheduled and they have worked for me, and by worked for me, that means I haven't felt rushed, I haven't had to ring and say, sorry, I'm running late, because the timeframes haven't been too tight, and I haven't had to reschedule anything again manually myself, that's success. And so I would be annoyed if you rescheduled 3 appointments and I just had to get on the phone and manually do them anyway. So that's like the 2 parameters. And even better, once you've worked out what success looks like, you should tell your virtual assistant that you're handing the task over to, so that they know what they're working towards and they can self-measure along the way. Okay, so did you have to reschedule any this week? Particularly through that training period. Why did you reschedule that one, etc., etc., because they know that's not ideal for you. So start thinking in tasks, work out what success looks like is the second one. And the third one is think about how you can stay in control while giving up control or handing over control. So for most of us, we're used to doing these things ourselves. It's a bit scary when you're handing over tasks for the first time. So I want you to start thinking about when can you check and correct? When can you check and correct? So in the case of the scheduling, it might be putting in a little step in the process, such as if you're rescheduling an appointment, CC me in to each rescheduling email so I can see straight away what you've done. And particularly in those early days through the training period, you can double check and have a bit of a look and hop straight on the phone and change it if you need to. So in other words, business is going to go on. It's not going to be too detrimental if some mistakes are being made, particularly in the early period. So start thinking in rules. Think about what success looks like and how do you retain control? When can you check and correct? So there are 3 tips that I've got to share with you today. I hope they've been helpful. I would love to hear some feedback and let me know if there's anything else like this that you'd like to hear from me. Thanks, guys.